Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, starring your host, Christian Reitz.
Hot dog, let's go!
Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, the show that incorporates disabilities with the magic of Disney. Welcome to episode number 13, entitled The Rockin' Season Finale. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. Now again, that's hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. And now, here is your host, Christian Reitz. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Disabled Podcast. In fact, welcome to our season 2 finale of the Disabled Podcast. Y'all, this is our season finale, the end of season number 2. And while I'm sad to see it go, I want to go through just a few of the highlights of season 2. And I might even tell you a big secret. You never know. And also, I'm going to be telling you how you can be a part of our very first t-shirt giveaway. Yes, that's right. We're having a t-shirt giveaway on the Disabled Podcast. So stay tuned to the end of the episode, and I'll tell you exactly how you can be a part of that t-shirt giveaway. So now, let's get on with the episode. I got to tell you, man, this whole podcast thing from, the concept of even being a podcaster to now going to a season 2 finale like today, has been crazy. And so some of the highlights that I wanted to share, some of my favorite episodes were actually here in season 2. And it's really 2 particular episodes I want to draw your attention to that actually were some of the most recent episodes that we talked about. And one of them was about we talked specifically about some of the Christmas parties and some of the after hours events that the Walt Disney World Resort offers, and talking about the accessibility of those events. And really, for me, that was one of the ones where I've had so many friends talk about, these Christmas parties that they've been to for Disney World. And I've heard from so many people all across the internet, of the accessibility and just how much they offer for accessibility. So talking about that stuff and talking about just the magic that comes out of that with the after hours events and the Christmas party and Halloween party has been just one of the coolest things for me to talk about, and also to do a lot of digging of the research, because a lot of you don't know that before I even make some of these episodes, really before I make any episode, I usually take about 2 weeks to really dive into the topic that I want to talk about for every episode. And then usually leading up to it, I'll kind of gather more information online from different Google resources and also from the Walt Disney World Resort website. So that was really one of my favorite ones from this season. And in fact, another one from this season that I can really think about off the top of my head was one that I did that talks about not the things you can do inside the parks, but actually things you can do outside of the parks. And so I talked about some of the wildlife, things you can do with aquariums and all that. But I even included one that was one of my favorite ones to talk about, which is the Suncoast Broadway Dinner Theater that is owned by my friend Charity Terrio and her husband Kurt. I have, I've gone to that theater before, and so talking about my experience brought back the memory of being in that theater, eating the food and seeing the show and having the experience that I got to have, and to be able to share that with you guys was really cool. So let's kind of talk about some of the things now, switching gears, of some of the ideas that I have planned coming up that I hope will come to fruition. But again, a lot of this podcast, when I made it, I wanted to make sure that it was designed with you, the listener, or even if you're watching on YouTube, in mind. So I'm curious, what are some of the episodes that you would want me to do for, let's say, if I did a future episode of the Disabled Podcast? Why don't you drop a comment down below on all of our platforms, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or you can even shoot me a message on Facebook, or even a comment on Facebook on a post of any episode of the podcast. And I just want to hear your ideas of what you think I should do a podcast episode on. Now, you just heard me talk about some of my favorite highlights. I'm curious to hear what your favorite highlights are as well. But I think now is the time to tell you one of the biggest secrets. That's right. It's 5 minutes into the podcast, and I'm going to tell you the biggest secret, and that is that season 3 of the Disable podcast is coming to you on all of your favorite platforms, to include YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and possibly even more platforms in the future. Stay tuned for that announcement very soon. It's coming to you at the end of January. So stay tuned for a whole new season of the Disable podcast. And by the way, if you're watching me on YouTube, I got to ask, what do you think of the new background? Yes, this blurry background. Well, that's because I'm trying something brand new for season 3 of the Disable podcast. Yes, there's going to be a whole new sound coming from myself and a whole new visual if you're watching on YouTube for the Disable podcast. So stay tuned to see what that's going to look like. I might even give a few teasers here and there in the future. So stay tuned to the Disable podcast Facebook page to find out what that's all about. But anyway, just some of the highlights that I talked about, before, kind of got me thinking about some of the future episodes I want to do. So here are some of the episodes that I have an idea for that I would love to talk about. So some ideas that I would love to talk about in the future for season 3 are one episode that I'm really interested in doing is on the Disney College Program. Now, I know some of you may be wondering what the Disney College Program is all about. Well, in that episode, which I have, again, these are episodes that I would love to do. I don't know when I will do these episodes. So stay tuned to the Facebook page to find out when these episodes will be arriving, and for more episodes that I'm wanting to do in the near future. But I want to do an episode on the Disney College Program. I actually have some friends that have been a part of the Disney College Program, and some that are actually working at Disney World right now. So I want to do a special interview with some of my friends over Zoom to talk about the Disney College Program and their experiences. So be sure to stay tuned for that interview coming really soon. And also, you heard me mention in one of the other episodes in this season about the Suncoast Broadway Dinner Theater. So I would love to do an episode and share it with you in the season of the owners of the Suncoast Broadway Dinner Theater, Charity and Kurt Terrio. And I want to interview them in one of the episodes of the season, just to talk about life as dinner theater owners and how they got their start into that. So again, those are just a couple of them. We'll also get into talking about some of the big announcements from Disney that came out of the D23 Expo that recently just happened a couple months ago. And so many more. Yes, we'll even talk about some of the controversies behind some of the decisions that Disney has made as far as the parks go. So again, those are just some of the episodes that I have in mind for this season of the Disable podcast that I am so excited for. But again, like I said before, I want you to determine what episodes as well that you would like to hear about. So again, comment below or send me a message on Facebook and tell me what are some of the podcast episodes you were interested in hearing me talk about in this next season of the Disable podcast. And so now let's talk about that exclusive t-shirt giveaway. All right, so if you've been following me on Facebook for quite a bit, and I know some of you have already seen this post on the Disabled Podcast Facebook page, you know that I'm giving away a free t-shirt, and that is this t-shirt right here. That is the "and we'll see you real soon" t-shirt, which is the catchphrase that we use at the end of every episode of the Disabled Podcast. This t-shirt right here is actually a medium-sized t-shirt. So here's how you can enter to win this exclusive t-shirt. First of all, you must be following us on Facebook. Second, you must be subscribed to us on one of these platforms, either YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. And number 3, I'm going to be putting out a post of the t-shirt here in just a few days. So be sure to go find that post. When you do go like that post, be sure to like, share, and comment on the post. And on the very first episode of season 3, I will be announcing the winner of that exclusive t-shirt. So again, make sure you, again, go like us on Facebook, go follow us on your favorite streaming platform, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. And be sure to go like and share and comment on the post that I will be sharing this week from the Disable podcast. And I will be announcing that on episode 1 of season 3 of this next episode, actually, very next episode of the Disable podcast. Look, I am so excited for season 3 and what it has to offer. I hope you will stay with me on this journey as we discover new things together about Disney and we talk about disability with the magic of Disney. I'm just so excited, and I hope you are too. You guys, that is the end of season 2 of the Disable podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for this special episode. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see ya
Real soon.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Disable podcast. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disable podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see ya real soon.